Sorry.
That's the fastest one ever.
It's fast meeting
Good
ever. Okay, we're calling this meeting to order, the board meeting for EVIT for September 9th, 2024. And that is our call to order. And then I asked if Mr. Boyle would lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we're at item number 3, presentations and recognitions. Dr. Wilson.
Madam President, members of the governing board, I'd actually like to turn this over to Dr. Doolin. It's one of her dean's departments and programs that they will be introducing.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody, today. We're excited to see you all. I'm excited to be able to introduce our first student of the month for the 24-25 school year, and it is from Mr. Martin's class. Mr. Martin is one of our cosmetology teachers, and he is here with us today to introduce his student. And I want to excuse one of our deans, Miss French. She is actually out of town at a professional development conference. We'll have you come on up.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce my student. Oh, it's not, oh, now you can hear me. My student, Sophia Campos, okay? Sophia is a model student. She maintains an A in cosmetology. Although, as a CT instructor, when I'm looking for a student a month, I don't necessarily look for their grades, although grades are important. I look for the human in the student, okay? I'm going to look for the effort that the student puts forth, along with how they work as a team, their drive, their leadership, and especially their kindness towards others. Basically, I look for a class citizen. That's what I look for in the student, as I'm looking for student of the month. Sophia is a natural leader, and she's consistently eager to put her best foot forward. She also maintains a positive outlook always. She was a responsible student that sets a good example for her peers. When working with the team, she's a strong team leader. She always puts forth a strong effort academically. She's willing to share her learning and is appreciated by her classmates for her positive attitude and her consideration. While she shows much promise as a student in cosmetology, she has higher goals for her future beyond cosmetology. She has mentioned to me that she wants to go to one of our state universities for business. She told me she's thinking about ASU. She has demonstrated effort that shows me she will be an asset to whatever path she decides to take or to pursue. At her home school, Marcus Deniza, she is the captain of the band Color Guard. She is a member of the Peer Tutoring Club. She is an AP government class. She is in an AP government class, which includes We the People, which is a comprehensive curriculum for students covering the history and principles of constitutional democracy in the United States. These students also go to a state and national competition, national level competition. Sophia is a Tempe Sister Student Youth Group Vice President, and she is a FAFSA peer coach helping other students through their FAFSA application process. She's one busy student. Now I know when I ask her, well actually my students, who wanted to be my class ambassador, she did not raise her hand. She was a little too busy. So what I have seen of Sophia in the short time I have been her instructor, she is enthusiastic, considerate, selfless. Well, she's basically a good human being. And that's why I nominated Sophia Campos to be Student of the Month.
Hi, I'm Sophia Campos. I just want to share a little about my EVIT journey. I was a little aimless, middle school, high school. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And I found my passion for hair and that I really enjoyed doing it with my friends, my family. And through my high school, I found out about EVIT and the programs here and the opportunity it provides. I thought it was really awesome. I toured with my family. And it was really just an amazing opportunity to get my license not only through high school, so I'd graduate with my degree and my diploma and my certification, but also I do it for pretty much free, just a couple fees here and there. It was really awesome. I've loved being here. I love Mr. Martin's class. It's very awesome getting to express my creativity, learn more new things, and all my peers are amazing. I love helping anybody who asks. It's really awesome, and I just thank all of you for the opportunity.
Any questions other than, how are you the way you are? You're amazing. You're amazing. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Not many. It's long nights.
It's really impressive. Great job. Really outstanding.
So, Madam President, one of the things when I hear a story like Sophia's that I'm just grateful for is that I think she described exactly who we expect ourselves to be as an organization. Here's a young individual that found her passion and is going to use that passion potentially in a lot of different areas and ways, and that she, by her own definition, was a bit aimless and found herself rooted in her learning opportunity through EVIT and has demonstrated not only to us and to her home school the quality of student she is. And so I'm so grateful that you took the opportunity to share your path here, because that's the path that we want all students to have the experience to be on. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to also express appreciation to her family for having a willingness to let her practice on their hair. Among other things.
And Mom, we do thank you. We know that we have the privilege of working with young men and women every single day, but oftentimes the quality of that child is born by the parents and the guardian that love them at home. So thank you very much. Mr. Martin, for you to take the time, I know you've had a long day, and to stay is very much appreciated, so thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, are we done with presentations? Yes. Okay, thank you very much for coming. You're outstanding and just the best part of our night. And congrats, Mom. That's wonderful. We're going to move on to other business. Feel free to stay. It's very boring. I don't encourage it.
Wow.
I'm just going to state, it's nothing like this. We're going to be, if you want to be a board member, feel free and stay and watch what we do. I believe it. I really do.
Mom. Good point. Thank you.
So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So now that I've thrown us all under the bus, let's move on. That's what I tell my kids, and they're like, can I come? I'm like, absolutely not. You'll be bored out of your mind.
It's like watching paint dry.
Oh, boy. Okay, minutes. So I'd like a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move that we approve the regular meeting minutes of the meeting held on August 26, 2024.
I second.
Any discussion? Dr. Metcalf, please call the vote.
All those in favor of approving the minutes from the regular meeting of August 26th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Wilson, number 5, call to the public. Do we have?
Madam President, no, we do not tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'll get my mouse working sooner or later. Are we on 6? It toggles between 4 and 6.
6A.
Thank you. 6A, consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve the consent items A through J.
I second.
Is there any discussion? Anything we need to talk about? Hearing none, let's call the vote, please.
Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda items 6A through J, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Item 7, let's start with 7 personnel, 7A. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I make a motion that we accept item 7A.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion, Dr. Wilson?
Madam President, members of the Governing Board, no. we will have throughout the course of the year an ebb and flow of positions, individuals that are joining our family and individuals that are leaving our family. And so this is not anything surprising for this time of the school year.
Thank you. Call the vote, please.
All those in favor of item 7A, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for 7 Personnel B, job description for new position?
I make a motion that we accept item 7B.
I second.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Madam President, members of the governing board, this job description is a job description specifically required by our, I'm going to say it's WIOA, or the WIOA grant funding. What this position is for, as part of the requirement in that funding, is that we service individuals who have yet completed high school, who are training and with us in their CTE programming, but also participating in our HSE. And so this is more of a general knowledge tutor for that program. This is funded through the grant and will expire once the grant expires. And so it's not a position that is going to remain outside of the grant. It's a position that will be maintained as long as we have the grant.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
All those in favor of item 7B, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Item 8, information and discussion. So 8A, it's a policy revision of a first read. Do I have a motion?
No, you do not.
You do, thank you. Okay. Thank you.
There's 2 first reads. First one is Chapter 5, Section 37, and this is to resolve a discrepancy between the statutory language, our existing policy, and the FROG. So it limits the chiefs, deans, and superintendent to up to 5 days of suspension. It allows the superintendent up to 10 days for teachers, and the superintendent has to approve all suspensions. The second one is, I'm sorry, there's 3 of them. Second one is in Chapter 6, Section 11, Subsection C. Since we've gone to electronic filing of forms, this just changes this from submitting the paper form to submitting the request for ADA through the electronic system. And the last one is Chapter 7, Section 21. This is because we're growing in the adult program, we had to clarify that if you're an adult, your mommy can't put in a grievance for you, you have to do it yourself.
I do have a question. It's on the Section 21, student concerns and grievances. And I think if let's see.
Oh.
I think you found the question I had too.
Okay.
Is
Well,
it
let's see.
is it the 30 Prince 20 question?
Yes.
So I guess how I was reading it was following the chain of command, which I fully support, but the question was they have to meet in person before the next step can go on. Is that what I'm reading right? The grievance must first be discussed with the student's instructor, et cetera, who will meet with the grievant within 5 days. What if they can't? Does that require physical meeting?
No.
No. Phone call, email,
Yeah, correct.
anything? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I will correct the paren to 30 before I bring it back for the second read.
Cool. Thank you.
It
We
wasn't
found
the same
something
thing.
different, yeah.
All right, okay. Let's see if my computer will work now. Okay, so any further discussion? Any other questions? Anything? Okay, so action items where we will need motions back again. Okay. So 9A, policy revision, second read. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the policy revisions included in action items 9A.
I second.
Any discussion?
All those in favor of item 9A, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Is that a nay?
No. that was
Okay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Let's move on to action item 9B, EVIT District 4 seat vacancy. Is there a motion?
I move to declare EVIT District 4 seat vacant pursuant to ARS 382917.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Dr. Wilson.
Madam President, members of the governing board, ASRS requires after 3 consecutive months of a board member not being present or engaged, that you as a board have to declare the seat vacant. Upon doing that, then we'll report that to the county superintendent, who will then have the obligation to fill the seat. Whether that gets filled now or not, with the election coming in November, is going to be up to the county superintendent. But this is your statutory requirement to notify the county of the vacancy, and this is the first step in doing that.
Thank you. Please call the vote, or any more discussion? Please call the vote.
All those in favor of item 9B, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Action item 9C, request for EVIT CTDS number for Coronado High School as a leased central campus. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the request for EVIT CTDS number for Coronado High School as a leased central campus.
I second.
Dr.
I'll
Wilson?
second.
Oh, we had it. Dr. Wilson?
Madam President, members of the governing board, I believe several months ago, we had a discussion about the opportunity of expanding our ability to service different parts of the CTED, and specifically this was Coronado and South Scottsdale. And one of the things that is we always anchor ourselves to this belief that we change lives by loving our students and serving our communities. And that looks different depending upon the community and depending upon the situation. And one of the things that Coronado has often struggled with is the ability to anchor themselves to a signature program that allows them to be uniquely different than the rest of the high schools within that district. And so we've been working with Coronado for a number of years to try to figure out a way that CTE could be that unique anchor. And so in our process of working with them, one of the conclusions they came to after surveying their student population was a fire science program would be a program that their community would put their arms around and would give an anchor for that school in that district. It's important to us that we enter into a relationship that is not only beneficial to that campus, but also to the entire CTED, as well as to the EVIT as an entity. And so as we began working with Coronado to look at what that might look like, we also had the opportunity to work with the Charos, which is a philanthropic group in Scottsdale, and they're very supportive of this idea and this Coronado promise. We had the opportunity to meet with the fire chief, Scottsdale Fire. They're very excited and willing to lend their support. I've had multiple meetings with the school superintendent, Dr. Menzel, and he's very excited about the opportunity. And so we believe that this is a way for EVIT to kind of be that partner that allows us to lean in and support communities in ways that others probably can't. In order for us to do that, though, to create that central campus programming opportunity, we need to ask ADE for an additional CTDS number. And you're the only ones that have the authorization to do that. So what this action item is giving us the ability to reach out to ADE and get a new CTDS number so that we can sit down and have further conversations with Coronado about developing out what that fire program might look like.
Excellent. I think that's very exciting.
That is
I think
very
this idea is really exciting. I think it's outside the box. I think it's great. So, well done.
Me too. I live a couple miles up the road from Coronado. The Charos do great work. This is a great partnership, and I think there's a lot to be gained from it.
One, I think, I'm always very upfront with you all. I'm excited about the opportunity specifically for the reasons that you said, but I also think that as we look at ways that we can grow an understanding of the potential of CTE throughout communities, sometimes it takes the initial relationship to build on the rest of the opportunity. And so when we look at, as we grow our adult education and our associates, and we've added the RN and we have the surgical tech, and at some point in time we may have paramedic, is that something that would be beneficial to not just Coronado, but all of Scottsdale, as well as all of the CTED? We believe that it is, but this is a step towards us having a footprint, a much bigger footprint, in a part of our CTED that we've struggled with quite candidly over the course of time. So I think it's a great opportunity on a number of different levels.
Excellent.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do they have a facility, or how big of a capital expenditure are we going to need to get that off the ground?
It's a great question, and I'm going to I've included Dr. Doolin in some of the meetings. I'm going to ask her because she's talked with them a little bit about the facility and equipment requirements.
So we're starting with Fire One, and so the Fire One program will have some equipment costs, but not a whole as much as we would normally have on this campus, because we have been in contact with the Scottsdale Fire Department, and they are also entering this partnership, and there happens to be a fire station within walking distance to the school. So they are gonna allow the students to use at times some of their equipment and go there for some of the training as well. We're starting with a small cohort. The cohort size will be at the top, probably 30 is what we're looking for, between AM and PM. So we're looking at potentially 15 and 15 to make a full cohort of 30 for this first time out. As we grow a little bit more, if it's able to maintain and we do to go to Fire 2, there will be some additional costs associated. We also are gonna bus those students. We're working on a schedule with the curriculum once a week or once every other week. They will get on the bus and come here to do some of the drills that can't be done where they're at. But a lot of them can be done right there on campus.
Okay. Will the instructor be our employee or?
Yes, the instructor will be our employee. And that was part of the requirement from our end, because part of what we want to be able to do is to have the ability to grow the program in concert with what our Fire 1 and Fire 2 is here. And in order to do that, we wanted to have the ability to be able to have the instructor. And Scottsdale was very appreciative of that as well.
Is that IGA going to be a big hurdle?
Don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I've talked with Dr. Menzel, and I think that there's a blueprint that we've utilized before that we will most certainly adjust. But I believe that Dr. Menzel has had the same kinds of conversations with his board as we've had here. There's the Charos support the Coronado Promise, which is kind of this idea of not only the Charos but all of SUSD kind of wrapping their arms around the high school, and this becomes one continuation of that. It's also our goal to talk to the city of Scottsdale, and the city of Scottsdale does a bit like the city of Mesa does, in which they help students transition from high school into college, whether it's to SCC. We would like EVIT to be considered as part of that transition well in our adult education, either it's the certificate programs or the associate program. And so I don't think an IGA is going to be a difficult hurdle, because I do believe that both you all, but all of the other entities that want to see this work are folks that have the ability to make the decisions regarding the IGA and the benefit that it adds not only to the student, but to the community and ultimately to EVIT as a CTED.
So will they transport kids from other Scottsdale high schools to this program, or?
Yeah, so
Or will they be enrolled at Coronado?
So the great question. So the commitment they made was 30, and the pool that they surveyed from to get to that 30 was out of Coronado, because part of the goal is to have this be a Coronado specific program, right? Now that doesn't mean that if I'm an Arcadia student that I might want to drive there because my friend goes to Coronado, and that would be allowable. For it to be a centralized campus, there's got to be a student outside of an SUSD student enrolled, which means it's either a homeschool or a charter school or some other student outside of.
Cave Creek? Or?
Yes, exactly. Outside to make it a centralized campus. And now that we're just having the conversation, we believe that there's an opportunity. I don't know whether it would be achievable right now at this point with this relationship, but when you look at like the Salt River community, there's quite a bit of ability for us to lean in and support some of their enterprises. And so, again, does this get us a step towards being able to work with that community in a way that potentially we've not worked with them before?
And Fort McDowell as well.
Fort McDowell, yeah.
Oh, Fort McDowell as well, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think the rising tide will lift all boats. So
Yes, sir.
Let's go with it.
Excellent. Any further discussion or comments, questions?
I think we're ready to vote.
Okay, we're ready to vote. Call the vote, please.
All those in favor of item 9C, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, action item 9D, student school calendar for 25-26. I'd like a motion, please.
I'll move that we approve the proposed calendar for 25-26 school year.
I second.
Okay, discussion. Yeah, sorry, yes, Dr. Wilson.
I just have to remember to turn that on. Madam President, members of the governing board, I'm going to have Dr. Doolin explain the calendar and the rationale for why we're shifting it a bit from what we have been over the past couple of years.
So one of the reasons for the shift that we needed to do is if you will look at the bottom where it says the number of days in the first semester and the second semester, this past year, that's really been out of balance, and we're really trying to balance that a little bit better now that we're going in to adult ed a little heavier. Some of our teachers teach in high school and in the adult ed certificate programs, and that there needs to be a balance with the curriculum. Being 2 weeks, 10 days of instruction off between because those are only run for a semester, was really hurting us on the curriculum side. So we made some adjustments to the calendar, and that's why it is here for you today. I am noticing one error, so we're going to probably have to amend the motion with this, approving this error, and that is the 40th day with the switch in the calendar is now the 17th of September, and the 100th day is now the 28th of January.
Okay.
So it would need to be amended with those two dates in mind.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong when I say this, or do you have more?
No, that's it.
Correct me if I'm wrong when I say this. So, you too. So, schools typically function under a 180-day calendar, but really it's driven by the minutes that the student is in class. The way our calendars have historically been years ago is that we had 180 days, but because our classes were as long as they were, we actually had significantly more minutes than what were required. And so over the course of time, we kind of backed some of those out, and we put in some sort of professional development days. One of the things we're finding right now, though, is that because our start of the school year never aligns with the start of all of our partnering districts, and it never will, there are students that we start, but their homeschool doesn't start, say, for a week. And that student, maybe for valid reasons, doesn't show up to us for a week until their homeschool starts. Because they don't have the week, as the example is, of minutes calculated, we run the risk of losing the minutes required for them to be a fully funded student. So by adding extra days in, so we're going from, I think, 176 to 179.
Correct.
From 176 to 179, we're baking in extra days that allow us to have extra minutes that give us the opportunity potentially to offset some of that shortfall because the start of our calendar doesn't work or isn't the same as the start of our sending districts. But even more than that, and this is we've talked about this before on both of our campuses, as we continue to grow, the parking becomes a problem, but equally problematic is getting off the parking lots, right? So even if we have enough spaces for everybody, when the bell rings and you're trying to get out onto Power or you're trying to get out onto Main, it becomes more difficult with more and more students that are here. So one of our hopes is that by adding the extra days at the beginning of the year, we can fluctuate the release times of programs and not release all programs at the same time. So it will lessen the number of students that are entering the parking lot at one time until we get into the habit, which we always get into. Buses find their groove and everybody settles in. But those first 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, it's difficult. It's really difficult. And so if we can have the minutes built into the calendar that allows us the first couple of weeks to fluctuate release times of programs to get more students into the parking lot earlier and lessen the amount that we're hitting it at the same time, we believe that'll actually make it easier for students to get off the campus at both Main and Power until we have a longer discussion about what are some long-term solutions to that issue. So it's really driven by a couple of reasons, but those two are the two most significant for the adjustment.
Thank you. Any discussion? I actually have 2 questions. In January, it doesn't say when the first day back is at school for that semester. And could we add that unless I'm staring at it and I don't see it?
It is January 2nd.
So it'll be a Friday will be the first day back? That's so weird.
It is weird, but it's just where the holiday fell.
Right. Can we add that to the calendar? Just
Yes.
as a mom, I need the very most
Yep.
obvious, okay.
100%
And then
we can add that.
Also, the color coding for like the fall break, it doesn't correlate to the dates of let's see,
It
20,
does on
does
the,
it?
on the, it does on the computer.
Okay.
But not here, but we can make them so
Okay.
they're not all blue. Does that, like, we can go
Well,
with
no,
the
it
shade
just,
of
it
green?
went, it's like old school. It's like what it is
Yes.
still now, so.
Yes.
Well,
Does that
yeah,
make sense?
it says that fall break starts on September 22nd. It makes fall break seem like it's 3 weeks.
Nope, fall break starts on,
Or
so
2
it looks like,
weeks.
Tammy, is this the other calendar? Did they get the wrong
Sorry, I figured
calendar?
it out.
Yeah.
Because we corrected that?
Do we want to table this until it can get,
Till we have
The
all the
problem
corrections?
is I have to get it out to the homeschools, but
It's a statutory.
It's-
We
I
just
can-
need to restate the motions and.
how about I reprint it and we
Okay.
bring it back? Can we table it for now and I'll
Right.
bring it back in like 10 minutes with, I'll
Sure,
have Tammy
absolutely.
print out the
Let's-
right one.
After, yeah, so we need to,
so we just need to amend our
we'll
motion?
amend the motion. We'll have a motion to amend, and then we'll
Wanna make
vote
that
the
motion?
amendment. Yes.
So you may very well find after I would like you to do that, but you may very well find that after our executive session, we're going to have to meet again before our next regularly scheduled meeting. So we
Would
can
it-
table it and try to bring
Would
it
it be
back.
enough time for her to meet
All
what
right,
she needs
so-
to do?
You can table it to a time certain. You can table it to 30 minutes from now, 10 minutes from now. And
Yeah,
that's a priority motion. It takes priority over the pending motion. I think.
So I believe
Parliamentarian?
we're going to have to meet again sometime next week. And at that point, then we can have the calendar brought back to you with the correct
so
version.
let's move to table it until
Fair.
the next board meeting.
Okay.
I'll move to table it to the next board meeting,
I second.
Thank you.
and
Please
we'll
call the
vote
vote.
on that
Dr.
motion.
Metcalf?
All those in favor of tabling item, what number is
Is
this?
it
9D until our next board meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, so now we are in a call for executive session. Do I have a motion for executive session?
Madam President, I make the motion that we call for we move into executive session.
Is there a
I'll
second? Thank you, Mr. Lane. Please call for the vote.
All those in favor of item 10A to move to executive session, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries, Madam President.
Thank you. Let's go. Okay, I will get
Mike's off.
All right.
Okay, we are
Make
back
that-
in session. And we are at item 11, action item. I'd like a motion.
I'll move that we,
Madam Chairman, I'm direct legal counsel and the superintendent to proceed as discussed in executive session.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right, I need to call for the vote.
Dr. Wilson, nothing's, oh, that's right, call for a vote, please.
All right, all those in favor of the
Motion.
directions that have been provided to administration from the executive session, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries,
sorry,
Madam
Vice.
President.
I only voted once.
We'll move on. We'll move on to staff reports.
Go on.
Dr. Wilson.
Madam President, members of the governing board, I won't take a ton of time tonight, but I do want to give you an update on where we're at Power, the Power Campus. Your patience and the patience of our community over the past week to 10 days has been exceptional. As you recall, we were in a situation in which we're having a challenge with our power plant that powers the chillers, and the chillers obviously function to create the air conditioning. There's a lot of different possibilities as to why the issue is occurring, and we continue to explore all the different possibilities. One of the challenges as we explore the different possibilities, we need to be on a charger, and so what's it? A generator. And so, which makes sense. The problem is that the generators that we have been on have been faulting themselves. And so when the generator faults, there's a lag time before we get the next generator in, and the longer the chiller's down, the longer it takes to get the chiller up and running again. And so it's been just kind of a compounded process. We're at a point right now in which we brought in engineers, electricians, general contractors, and the current strategy, the current thought process is we're going to run on the generator for the remainder part of this week. And then this weekend, we're going to shut down and we're going to do some work on the breaker. We're going to do some work on insulating the lines. We're going to do some work on beginning to test the voltage that's coming to the breaker. The belief is that it's not the chillers itself, that it's actually some sort of voltage that's tripping. So it's either the breaker's the issue or there's some sort of issue within the electrical system that's causing a greater voltage that's actually tripping the breaker. Once we do some of those assessments and do some of the work, we'll power back up with SRP during the weekend and see if the system holds. We're going to leave the generator there, and if the system doesn't hold, then obviously we'll shut back down, reconnect to the generator, and stay on the generator as we continue to further explore what the problems are. One of the things I do want to make mention is I've had some people raise concern on Friday as to why we canceled the PM session classes and not the AM session classes, that if it wasn't working, then why didn't we cancel all of them? And I'd like to touch just briefly on that. The reason why is because it was our hope and our belief, based on what was occurring over Thursday night into Friday, that we would have power up and running sooner in the session than later. And so if the power was up and running, I'm saying by 8 o'clock, and we had Cosmos starting at 7, but the regular classes started at 8, that we would have been okay in terms of having the ability. The power didn't come on by 8, but there was intermittent usage of power, meaning it would come on, chiller 3 would come on, we'd start running for 15 minutes, we said, okay, great, we're on that, and then chiller 3 would come off. And then we'd wait 30, 40 minutes, and then chiller 2 would come on. So it wasn't, in the AM session, it was never a point in time in which there wasn't a belief that one or both of the chillers would be up and running in time to service not only the AM and the PM. In addition to that, obviously, it is a cooler temperature in the morning session than it is in the afternoon session. So, the morning session from 8 to 10:30 or 7 to 11 is much different than the afternoon temperature that runs from 12 to 2:35 or 12 to 4. So the idea of having the space be more user-friendly to students in the morning versus the afternoon seems reasonable. Third, obviously, the building at Power is largely brick. The buildings at Power are largely brick. And brick obviously retains the heat, right? So you put the morning session students in there and you have intermittent power unless the power is activated to be functioning at full capacity, the bodies that are in the classroom will heat the brick building up, which means the classroom itself, in addition to it being hotter outside because of the time of day, the classroom itself would be warmer in the afternoon versus the morning because of the body heat that was absorbed into the brick from the PM session. Fourth thing, closing schools is never an easy or good thing to do, right? For us, it's even that much more problematic because we don't have our own buses. When I was a superintendent in a different district, we had to close school on a number of occasions, and we would just route our own buses and manage the facilitating of moving the students because the buses we had, and we just did it internally. Obviously, we don't have buses, and so when students are on our campus for the AM session, the ability to get them off our campus because the school would be closed became problematic. We did allow any student that was wanting to go home as long as they came through administration and we called mom and dad or their guardian. We did not have the staffing capacity to monitor every single email that might be coming into attendance hour to use that as the reason that justify the student being able to leave. And what I didn't want to do as a superintendent is to have students leave the campus and not have assurance that their parent or guardian gave permission, because by chance maybe they didn't and the student leaves and there's a problem, that's problematic for the whole of the organization. So were we able to turn and process every single student? I believe every single student that came down to the administration was able to be turned and processed. But students whose parents might have called the attendance line or might have sent an email into the attendance at Power, we may not have been able to process them and release them before the class period was over because we just didn't have the ability to manage all of those different areas in which that information might be coming in. So I tell you all of this because please trust me, there was never any intention to do ill to our students or to our community or to our parents or to our staff. It was a combination of believing that the air would come on and be sufficient for the AM and the PM, the temperature of the PM versus the AM outside, the heat that the building radiates once students are in the building would be different between AM and PM, and the belief that our ability to have students in that AM session be able to get dismissed when we don't manage the busing. And so the decision was to continue to complete the AM session, letting students out as long as we had verbal contact with the parent, and dismiss the PM session. That's why we made the decisions that we made last Friday. We're hopeful that the work that was done over the weekend will allow us to maintain quality air through this week, do the work this next weekend, some of the assessments, and we're hopeful that that works. If it doesn't work, then we'll have the generator there to reconnect like we're running now as we continue to problem solve.
You made the best decision that you could with the information you had at the time that this all took place. So I commend you both, all of your administration, for being aware and being proactive and moving forward in the best interest of education and the safety of the students and staff.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you. And so that's all I have, Madam President.
Do we have, is there some kind, I don't know this, is there a rule or is there a gauge at a certain temperature where we call it where it's too hot for kids to be in? I only ask because our local junior high lost their air and those kids sat there all day long and
Right.
parents were outraged and it was, kids were saying, my phone says it's 102.
Right.
So is there a rule or a number we follow where
So-
we say, we call it?
So there's one of the interesting things is that, so we had individuals walking around and reading the air temperature, right? And I believe that the highest that reading was I believe 84.
That is of occupied rooms.
Of occupied spaces.
It was higher on our third floor, but
Correct.
we had already moved students off the third floor.
Right. So at 84, the decision was made that this is a reasonable temperature to navigate until, had we gotten into the 90s, I would have began to look at it differently. Now, I know that I have had some communication with parents that their son or daughter's phone was reading 112. That, I'm not dismissing that that's what the phone read, but I don't know exactly if that phone read that because of the program that they were in. The student was next to a piece of equipment that was going to read higher than normal whether the air was working or not, right? And so we went through and made sure that there was no room that students were in that was above 84 degrees. There was space that was more than that. And then that's why we stopped the PM session, because we knew, given everything that I just said, that those rooms would probably titch up into the 90s, at which point in time would be problematic for 2.5 hours to sit.
Right, I think you made the absolute best decision, what you could, so thank you.
Would it be advantageous for us, and I agree with what everyone has mentioned, would it be advantageous for us to consider a policy that sets an objective threshold for what the internal room temperature should read? Because then it wouldn't need to be a judgment call on anybody's
Yeah, it
end.
wouldn't hurt at all. I
Okay.
mean, I'm hopeful that we don't ever.
Sure,
But the
yeah.
truth of the matter is if there
We
was.
live in
that-
Arizona. It's
Yeah,
got- yeah.
but the truth is, if there was that, then that would have taken a lot of the
Right.
subjectivity out one way or the other.
Yeah.
So we can certainly come back, and I'm sure there are best practices
Yeah.
that indicate, like I said, from our perspective, the AM was just going to be markedly different
Sure.
Of course.
than the PM. Now, as life would have it, the air conditioning did start back up at about 1:30, and has ran from 1:30 until today. So we were close to the logic actually working itself out, we just were
Yeah.
a few hours short.
Yeah,
I
but if
think-
we can add to a future agenda to take a look at that, I think that would
I
be,
really
at least
like
give
that.
us an objective
Absolutely.
standard.
I think a policy like that would be very helpful.
Dr. Wilson, is this going to, we're going to meet our instructional hours, though? Do we have enough of a pad with respect to students?
So we're gonna, so there's two different parts, the instructional hours as well as the hours needed for those hour-based programs. So what we're ultimately gonna wind up doing is offering that half-day learning experience that was forfeited again in one of the calendar days that we have the second semester, so that we're able to offer that time not only for the instructional minutes, but also more importantly, for those students that need those hours in order to complete their certification.
Will there be students that exit at the end of this semester who are going to be affected, though?
No, all of the programs would be, the conclusion would be at the end of the second semester.
Okay, gotcha, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, closing items. Calendar. Let's put my glasses on. Okay, sorry. Closing item 13, A and B, calendar and adjournment. I'd like a
Move to
motion.
adjourn.
Our
Forget
next
about the
meeting,
calendar.
when is our next meeting, Madam President? 2 weeks from
2
now?
weeks from now.
Fourth
so
are
the-
regularly scheduled.
Okay, as regularly
Second and
scheduled, okay.
fourth.
So do we have a motion for item 13A? Or do we need a motion
No,
To adjourn.
to adjourn?
just adjourn.
To adjourn.
We typically do.
Tell me the date for this. Is it the 26th?
23rd.
23rd, okay.
Next meeting is the
Next meeting is
20th.
23rd, and then we need a motion to adjourn.
Madam President, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Call the vote.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion carries.
We are adjourned.
Thank you,
Good night.
have a nice evening.